Have you ever wondered why some people are remembered long after they leave the room, while others disappear from memory the moment they stop speaking? One of the greatest misunderstandings about human attraction is the belief that people become attached simply because they know everything about someone. In reality, the mind rarely obsesses over what is completely understood. It obsesses over what remains unfinished. The unanswered question lingers longer than the obvious answer. The closed door is forgotten, but the door left slightly open invites endless speculation. This is why becoming a mystery is not about pretending to be someone else or deliberately confusing people. It is about resisting the modern urge to reveal every thought, every plan, every emotion, and every detail of your life the moment it exists. When nothing is left to discover, curiosity has no reason to survive. Human beings possess a natural hunger for completion. Psychologists often describe how unfinished experiences remain active in the mind far longer than completed ones. Think about the films that leave their ending open to interpretation, or the books that end with one unanswered question. Days later, people are still discussing them, inventing theories, and searching for hidden meanings. The uncertainty itself becomes unforgettable. The same principle quietly shapes relationships. When someone reveals themselves all at once, the imagination has no work to do. But when there is depth beneath the surface, people begin creating their own interpretations. They wonder what you are thinking, where your confidence comes from, what experiences shaped you, and what parts of your story remain hidden. Many people unknowingly destroy this powerful effect because they mistake transparency for connection. They believe that speaking constantly, explaining every decision, and filling every silence will make others feel closer to them. Yet endless explanation often weakens presence rather than strengthening it. Every unnecessary detail removes another layer of intrigue. There is a certain strength in allowing silence to exist without rushing to erase it. Silence communicates comfort. It suggests that you do not fear being misunderstood for a moment. That quiet confidence encourages others to lean in instead of stepping away. Notice how the most memorable people often reveal themselves in small pieces. They answer questions honestly but rarely volunteer everything. They listen more than they speak. They observe before reacting. They never appear desperate to be fully known immediately because they understand that trust is built over time, not through information overload. Their personality unfolds naturally like chapters in a compelling novel rather than every page scattered across the floor at once. Mystery should never be confused with emotional distance or coldness. There is a significant difference between being unavailable and being impossible to understand. One creates frustration while the other creates fascination. A mysterious person can still be warm, kind, attentive, and engaging. What they avoid is predictability. They do not react exactly as everyone expects. They maintain interests, ambitions, and private moments that exist independently of other people's approval. Their life does not revolve around being watched. That independence itself becomes attractive because it signals depth. In today's world, mystery has become increasingly rare. Social media encourages constant exposure. Every meal, every vacation, every opinion, every success, and every disappointment is shared within minutes. While this creates visibility, it often eliminates anticipation. If someone can predict every move you will make because every moment is publicly displayed, there is little reason for their imagination to stay engaged. Scarcity of information, when natural and authentic, restores value to your presence. It reminds people that not everything meaningful must be broadcast. Another important aspect of mystery is emotional composure. Most people reveal their internal state immediately. Happiness, disappointment, anger, insecurity, jealousy, excitement, every feeling appears instantly on display. But emotional discipline creates another layer of intrigue. This does not mean suppressing genuine emotion. It means refusing to let temporary feelings control every interaction. When people cannot instantly predict your emotional reactions, they begin paying closer attention. They become more observant because certainty has disappeared. Curiosity is one of the strongest emotional magnets in human psychology. Once curiosity is awakened, attention follows naturally. People invest time trying to solve what they cannot immediately understand. They remember conversations where they left with new questions instead of complete answers. They replay moments searching for hidden meanings. They notice small details they previously ignored. None of this requires manipulation. It simply requires patience and the confidence to let your character reveal itself gradually instead of demanding instant recognition. There is also dignity in protecting certain parts of your life. Not every achievement requires applause. Not every struggle requires an audience. Some dreams grow stronger when they remain private until they become reality. Some victories become more meaningful because they were earned quietly rather than announced loudly. Privacy creates substance because it shifts your focus from managing impressions to building genuine character. The less energy spent proving who you are, the more energy becomes available to actually become that person. Ultimately, mystery is created not through secrets but through depth. A shallow person can hide information and still remain forgettable. A person with genuine depth possesses endless layers that cannot be discovered in a single conversation. Their experiences, perspectives, ambitions, discipline, and quiet confidence reveal themselves over months and years. Every interaction offers another glimpse rather than the complete picture, allowing curiosity to remain alive without ever feeling forced. People rarely remember every word you said, but they almost always remember how you made them feel. This is one of the most powerful truths in human psychology. Logic may guide decisions for a moment, but emotion leaves the deepest imprint on background memory. Long after the details of a conversation have faded, the emotional atmosphere remains. A person may forget the topics you discussed, yet they will remember whether they felt inspired, understood, challenged, excited, or unusually alive in your presence. That is why emotional presence is far more valuable than trying to appear perfect. Perfection creates admiration from a distance, but emotion creates connection that continues long after the interaction ends. Many people enter conversations focused almost entirely on themselves. They think about what they should say next, how they are being judged, or how they can appear more impressive. Their attention is divided between the other person and their own performance. Ironically, this constant self-awareness weakens their presence. Genuine presence begins when you stop trying to manage every impression and instead become fully engaged with the moment in front of you. People instantly recognize the difference between someone who is merely waiting for their turn to speak and someone who is genuinely listening. Listening is often mistaken for silence, but true listening is much deeper. It involves noticing changes in tone, pauses between words, subtle facial expressions, and emotions that are never spoken aloud. When someone feels deeply understood without having to explain every feeling, they experience something rare. In a world where most conversations are rushed and distracted, authentic attention becomes unforgettable. It communicates respect without needing dramatic gestures, and respect naturally strengthens emotional bonds. Emotional presence also means responding instead of reacting. Most people react impulsively. They interrupt, become defensive, seek immediate validation, or rush to prove a point. Their emotions control the conversation rather than enrich it. Someone with emotional discipline creates a different experience. They pause before speaking, they choose words carefully, they remain calm when others become emotional. This composure has a quiet influence because people instinctively trust those who appear in control of themselves. Calmness in moments of tension is often interpreted as confidence, wisdom, and inner strength. Another important element is making people feel significant. Every person carries an invisible desire to be seen, valued, and appreciated. This desire often remains hidden beneath confidence or success, yet it exists in nearly everyone. When your attention makes someone feel important without flattery or exaggeration, they begin associating your presence with emotional comfort. Asking thoughtful questions, remembering small details from previous conversations, and showing genuine curiosity about another person's experiences communicates that they matter. Few gifts are more powerful than making someone feel truly noticed. Emotional presence does not require constant positivity. In fact, people often distrust those who appear cheerful all the time because it can seem artificial. Authenticity creates stronger emotional impact than forced optimism. There are moments when seriousness, empathy, quiet reflection, or even shared silence communicate far more than endless encouragement. The goal is not to manufacture emotions, but to allow genuine emotional experiences to exist without pretending they are something else. Honest emotion expressed with maturity and balance builds trust far more effectively than rehearsed charm. Energy also plays an invisible role in how people remember you. Every interaction carries emotional energy that influences those around you. Some individuals leave others feeling exhausted because every conversation revolves around complaints, drama, or endless negativity. Others leave people feeling lighter, more confident, and more hopeful. This difference has little to do with entertaining stories or clever jokes. It comes from emotional consistency. People naturally crave environments where they feel emotionally safe and mentally refreshed. If spending time with you consistently leaves them feeling stronger instead of weaker, they will seek your company again without fully understanding why. Being emotionally present also means embracing uncertainty during conversations. Many people become uncomfortable with pauses and immediately fill every silence with unnecessary words. Yet silence often gives emotions room to breathe. A thoughtful pause after someone shares something meaningful communicates attention and respect. It allows both people to process the moment instead of rushing toward the next topic. These quiet moments frequently become the most memorable parts of meaningful conversations because they demonstrate confidence rather than anxiety. Another overlooked aspect of emotional presence is emotional independence. If your mood depends entirely on how others respond to you, your presence becomes unstable. Compliments make you overly excited, while criticism immediately destroys your confidence. This emotional volatility creates unpredictability in the wrong way. True emotional presence comes from stability. You appreciate kindness without becoming dependent on it. You accept disagreement without becoming defensive. You maintain your values regardless of changing opinions around you. This inner steadiness creates a reassuring effect because people know they are interacting with someone grounded rather than easily shaken. The strongest emotional connections are often built through consistency rather than intensity. Grand gestures may impress someone for a day, but reliable kindness, thoughtful attention, and genuine curiosity leave a much deeper mark over time. Every conversation becomes another opportunity to reinforce how people feel in your presence. Instead of trying to be the loudest voice in the room or the most impressive person in every discussion, focus on creating moments that carry emotional weight. Those moments linger in memory long after words disappear, quietly shaping how people think about you whenever your name crosses their mind. One of the greatest misconceptions people have about attraction is that being constantly available will make them more valued. They answer answer every message within seconds, rearrange their schedules to accommodate everyone else, and make themselves endlessly accessible in the hope that their generosity will be appreciated. While kindness and reliability are admirable qualities, constant availability often produces the opposite effect. What is always available gradually becomes expected, and what becomes expected slowly loses its perceived value. Human psychology has always attached greater significance to what feels limited, not because rarity automatically creates worth, but because scarcity encourages appreciation. Think about the things people treasure most. They are rarely the things that are unlimited. Time, opportunities, meaningful relationships, and unforgettable experiences all carry value because they cannot be endlessly replaced. The same principle quietly influences how people perceive your attention. Your attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess because every moment you give to one person is a moment you cannot give somewhere else. When you treat your attention as if it has no limits, others often begin treating it the same way. Many people confuse availability with affection. They believe that if they constantly check in, constantly initiate conversations, and constantly remain present, the other person will naturally become more attached. Instead, excessive availability removes anticipation from the relationship. There's no space for curiosity, no opportunity for appreciation, and no reason to miss your presence because it never truly disappears. Familiarity can certainly build comfort, but when familiarity turns into predictability without boundaries, emotional excitement often fades. Scarcity is not created by playing games or intentionally ignoring people. Artificial distance is usually easy to recognize and often damages trust. Genuine scarcity comes from having a life that remains full, whether other people are present or not. It means your days are occupied by meaningful goals, personal growth, relationships, responsibilities, and interests that deserve your attention. You are not unavailable because you are trying to appear important. You are unavailable at times because your life genuinely contains purpose beyond seeking someone's approval. That quiet independence naturally becomes attractive because it signals that your identity is not dependent on constant external validation. There is also a psychological principle known as the fear of loss. People often value something more when they recognize that it could disappear. This does not mean threatening to leave or creating unnecessary insecurity. Instead, it reflects the simple reality that your time is finite. Every conversation eventually ends. Every opportunity eventually passes. Every moment shared together exists only once. When people understand that your presence is meaningful but not unlimited, they become more attentive while they have it. They stop assuming there will always be another chance. Boundaries are essential to creating healthy scarcity. Many individuals hesitate to establish boundaries because they fear disappointing others or appearing selfish. Yet boundaries communicate self-respect. They demonstrate that you recognize the value of your own time and emotional energy. When you politely decline commitments that conflict with your priorities, you send a subtle message that your life operates according to principles rather than pressure. Ironically, people often respect those boundaries far more than endless accommodation because confidence inspires respect while desperation quietly invites exploitation. Constant accessibility also reduces emotional impact. Imagine hearing your favorite song every hour of every day. Eventually, even something beautiful begins to lose its emotional power through repetition. Human beings adapt quickly to constant experiences. This psychological process, often called habituation, causes repeated exposure to reduce emotional intensity over time. Relationships are not immune to this pattern. Space allows appreciation to reset. A meaningful conversation after time apart often carries greater depth than endless communication that becomes routine. Scarcity also applies to words. Some people speak continuously, filling every silence with explanations, opinions, and stories. Others choose their words carefully, speaking with intention rather than habit. When someone speaks less but says something meaningful each time, their words naturally command greater attention. People listen more carefully because they have learned that what is said carries weight. The same principle applies to compliments, advice, and emotional expression. When everything is expressed constantly, individual moments lose significance. Thoughtful restraint often gives greater power to the moments that truly matter. Living with purpose naturally reinforces scarcity because purpose creates priorities. Individuals driven by meaningful ambitions cannot devote unlimited energy to pleasing everyone they meet. They understand that every decision involves opportunity cost. Saying yes to one request often means saying no to another. This awareness encourages intentional choices instead of automatic availability. Rather than feeling guilty for protecting their schedule, they recognize that focused attention produces greater value than scattered attention given to everyone equally. There is another quiet strength in allowing people the opportunity to seek you out. Many relationships become unbalanced because one person always initiates every conversation, every plan, and every effort. Over time, this creates dependency rather than mutual interest. When you occasionally step back and allow others to invest their own effort, you gain a clearer understanding of the relationship's balance. Healthy connections thrive through reciprocal interest, not one-sided pursuit. Giving others room to reach toward you creates a sense of participation rather than passive expectation. Ultimately, cultivating scarcity is not about becoming distant or emotionally unavailable. It is about recognizing that your presence, your attention, your time, and your energy are valuable resources that deserve thoughtful investment. When you stop giving them away indiscriminately and begin offering them with intention, people naturally become more aware of their worth. They pay closer attention, appreciate the moments they share with you, and begin to recognize that what is genuinely valuable is rarely available without limit. Quiet confidence is one of the rarest qualities a person can possess because it cannot be manufactured through appearances alone. It does not announce itself, demand recognition, or seek applause. It exists beneath the surface, influencing every word, every decision, and every action without needing constant confirmation from others. Many people mistake confidence for loudness, dominance, or an endless display of achievements. They believe that the more they talk about their successes, the more respected they will become. Yet genuine confidence follows an entirely different path. It has no urgency to prove itself because it already knows its own worth. The desire for validation is deeply rooted in human nature. Everyone enjoys appreciation, encouragement, and recognition. The problem begins when those things become necessities rather than bonuses. When your confidence depends entirely on compliments, approval, or admiration, you unknowingly hand control of your emotional state to other people. So criticism can destroy your mood. A lack of attention can make you question your value. Every interaction becomes a silent test in which you hope someone else confirms what you have not yet learned to believe about yourself. People are remarkably sensitive to this dependence, even when it is never spoken aloud. They notice when someone constantly fishes for compliments, exaggerates accomplishments, interrupts conversations to redirect attention toward themselves, or becomes uncomfortable whenever they are not the center of the room. These behaviors may appear confident on the surface, but underneath they often reveal insecurity. The louder someone insists on their importance, the more others begin wondering why that reassurance is so desperately needed. Confidence operates differently. It allows your actions to speak before your words. Instead of rushing to explain your abilities, you demonstrate them through consistency. Instead of arguing with every criticism, you remain focused on your own standards. Instead of competing for attention, you become fully engaged in whatever you are doing. This calm certainty creates an almost magnetic presence because people naturally trust those who appear secure without constantly advertising their value. One of the strongest signs of quiet confidence is comfort with silence. Many people fear silence because they assume it makes them appear awkward or uninteresting. They immediately begin talking simply to fill the empty space. Yet confident individuals understand that silence is not an enemy. It gives conversations room to breathe. It shows that you are comfortable enough with yourself that you do not need constant noise to feel significant. A thoughtful pause before answering often communicates more wisdom than an immediate response driven by anxiety. Another important aspect of quiet confidence is emotional stability. Life inevitably brings praise and criticism, success and failure, agreement and rejection. Someone who depends on validation is carried up and down by every opinion they encounter. Their emotional state changes according to the reactions of others. Quiet confidence creates a different kind of resilience. Praise is appreciated but not required. Criticism is considered without becoming a personal attack. Rejection is viewed as a part of life rather than proof of unworthiness. This stability makes a person appear grounded because they are guided by principles rather than public opinion. There's also strength in admitting what you do not know. Ironically, insecure people often pretend to have every answer because they fear appearing weak. Confident people have no such fear. They ask questions when they are uncertain. They seek advice when necessary. They continue learning because their identity is not threatened by temporary ignorance. This humility often increases respect because people recognize authenticity far more quickly than perfection. Quiet confidence is built through promises kept to yourself. Every time you commit to a goal and follow through, even when no one is watching, your trust in yourself grows. Every disciplined action becomes evidence that your words have meaning. This private integrity gradually replaces the need for public validation because your confidence is no longer based on appearances. It is based on experience. You know what you are capable of because you have repeatedly demonstrated to yourself. Comparison is another silent thief of confidence. Many people spend their lives measuring themselves against the achievements, appearance, or popularity of others. This habit creates endless dissatisfaction because there will always be someone richer, smarter, more attractive, or more accomplished. Quiet confidence shifts attention away from comparison and toward personal growth. Instead of asking whether you are ahead of someone else, you ask whether you are stronger, wiser, and more disciplined than you were yesterday. This internal focus creates lasting confidence because your progress is measured against your own standards rather than changing external circumstances. People are naturally drawn to individuals who remain authentic regardless of the audience. Someone who changes their personality to gain approval from different groups communicates uncertainty about who they truly are. Quiet confidence produces consistency. Your values remain stable whether you are speaking to strangers, friends, colleagues, or those in positions of authority. You do not become arrogant in success or diminish yourself in the presence of powerful people. You treat everyone with respect while preserving your own dignity. Perhaps the greatest expression of quiet confidence is the willingness to walk away from situations that demand you abandon your self-respect. Validation often tempts people to tolerate disrespect, compromise their values, or chase relationships where appreciation is never freely given. Someone who knows their worth understands that acceptance purchased at the cost of personal integrity is never genuine acceptance. They would rather be misunderstood than become someone they no longer recognize, because confidence rooted in self-respect can never be replaced replaced by the temporary approval of others. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing they become valuable by trying to be like everyone else. They observe what is popular, imitate the personalities that receive the most attention, adopt the same opinions, and pursue the same image, hoping acceptance will follow. While imitation may bring temporary approval, it rarely creates lasting impact. Human beings remember what is distinctive, not what blends into the background. If your identity is built entirely from borrowed traits, people may enjoy your company, but they will struggle to remember what truly separates you from everyone else. The mind naturally attaches itself to what feels original, authentic, and impossible to replace. Every unforgettable person possesses a quality that cannot easily be copied. Sometimes it is the way they think. Sometimes it is the calmness they maintain under pressure. Sometimes it is their discipline, their humor, their wisdom, or their ability to make others feel deeply understood. These qualities are rarely developed overnight. They are shaped through years of experience, reflection, failure, and deliberate growth. This is why creating an identity that cannot be replaced is never about inventing a false image. It is about discovering the strongest parts of your genuine character and refining them until they become unmistakably your own. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to impress others instead of developing themselves. They focus on appearing successful rather than becoming capable. They seek admiration before earning mastery, yet admiration built only on appearances disappears as quickly as appearances change. Real identity is built on substance. It comes from developing knowledge that cannot be taken away, skills that improve with practice, values that remain steady during difficult moments, and a reputation that is earned through consistent actions rather than carefully crafted words. Your principles are one of the strongest foundations of an irreplaceable identity. Principles guide your decisions even when no one is watching. They shape how you respond to success, failure, temptation, and conflict. Someone without principles changes according to convenience, adjusting their beliefs to gain approval from whoever happens to be present. Someone guided by clear values becomes predictable in the best possible way. People know where they stand because your actions consistently reflect your character. This consistency builds trust, and trust is one of the rarest forms of influence a person can possess. Another important part of becoming irreplaceable is cultivating depth instead of breadth. Modern culture often encourages people to know a little about everything while mastering nothing. Yet those who leave lasting impressions usually dedicate themselves to meaningful expertise. Whether it is communication, leadership, creativity, problem-solving, emotional intelligence, or another discipline, they continually sharpen their abilities. Mastery creates quiet confidence because competence eliminates the need for constant self-promotion. Others naturally begin seeking your perspective because they recognize genuine ability rather than exaggerated claims. Original thinking also distinguishes unforgettable individuals. It is easy to repeat popular opinions because agreement feels safe. It takes far more courage to examine ideas independently and develop conclusions based on careful observation and experience. This does not mean disagreeing for the sake of appearing different. It means refusing to surrender your judgment simply because a crowd believes something. Independent thought gives your conversations depth because people encounter perspectives they cannot predict. They leave interactions with new ideas instead of hearing familiar phrases repeated once again. An irreplaceable identity is strengthened by emotional consistency. Many people behave differently depending on who is watching. They become confident around those they perceive as weaker and insecure around those they admire. This inconsistency creates uncertainty because others never know which version of the person they will encounter. Genuine character remains stable across different situations. Respect is offered to everyone regardless of status. Kindness is shown without expectation of reward. Confidence remains calm instead of becoming arrogance. This reliability becomes memorable because consistency is surprisingly uncommon. Your passions also contribute to a unique identity. People are naturally drawn to individuals who pursue meaningful goals with genuine enthusiasm. Passion gives life direction and energy that cannot be convincingly imitated. When someone dedicates themselves to continuous growth, creative work, learning, or purposeful contribution, they radiate a sense of fulfillment that extends beyond external achievements. Their conversations carry substance because their lives are filled with experiences rather than endless attempts to gain attention. Equally important is resisting the temptation to seek universal approval. The desire to be liked by everyone often forces people to dilute their personality until nothing distinctive remains. They avoid expressing sincere opinions, hide their ambitions, and suppress qualities that make them different. Yet what makes someone unforgettable is often the very thing that prevents them from pleasing everyone. Authenticity naturally attracts those who appreciate it while allowing superficial connections to fade. Trying to satisfy every expectation only produces an identity shaped by other people's preferences instead of your own convictions. An irreplaceable identity is also built through reliability. Words lose meaning when they are not supported by action. Keeping promises, arriving when you say you will, honoring commitments, and remaining dependable during difficult times quietly separates you from those who offer impressive speeches but little consistency. Over time, people begin associating your name with trust, and trust cannot be manufactured through charm alone. It is earned through repeated demonstrations of integrity. Ultimately, becoming impossible to replace is not about convincing people that no one else matters. It is about living in such a genuine, disciplined disciplined and purposeful way that your presence leaves a lasting impression no imitation can reproduce. Your uniqueness is not created by trying to appear extraordinary, but by developing qualities so authentic, dependable, and deeply rooted that anyone who encounters you recognizes they are meeting someone whose value comes from character rather than performance. One of the most powerful yet overlooked principles of human psychology is that people rarely crave what they have fully consumed. They crave what leaves them emotionally engaged, mentally stimulated, and eager for more. Every memorable conversation, every meaningful encounter, and every lasting relationship contains an element of anticipation. It is not simply what happened that remains in the mind, but what could happen next. This is why learning to leave people wanting more is not about withholding affection or creating unnecessary distance. It is about understanding that every interaction should end with a sense of possibility rather than exhaustion. Many people unknowingly weaken their own presence by staying too long. They continue talking long after the most meaningful part of the conversation has passed. They explain the same point repeatedly, repeat stories that have already made their impact, or remain in situations simply because they fear leaving too soon. The result is that the emotional energy of the interaction slowly fades. Instead of remembering the strongest moment, people often remember the last one, even if it was ordinary. This is a simple reality of human memory. The ending of an experience carries tremendous influence over how the entire experience is remembered. Think about your favorite films or novels. Their greatest moments are carefully paced. They build curiosity, deliver emotion, and often conclude while the audience is still deeply invested. They rarely continue long after the story has reached its emotional peak. If they did, much of their impact would disappear. Human interactions follow a similar pattern. When you recognize the natural high point of a conversation and allow it to end there, you preserve the emotional energy instead of allowing it to fade through unnecessary extension. This principle also applies to your personal presence. There is no need to constantly entertain, impress, or dominate every interaction. In fact, trying too hard often creates the opposite effect. Confidence is demonstrated by knowing that you do not have to fill every moment with words. Sometimes the strongest impression comes from a thoughtful conversation followed by a graceful departure. When people are still enjoying your company as you leave, they associate your presence with satisfaction rather than fatigue. They begin looking forward to the next opportunity instead of feeling relieved that the interaction has finally ended. Another important element is maintaining momentum in your own life. If your entire world revolves around another person's attention, you will naturally prolong every interaction because you have nowhere else to direct your energy. But when your life is filled with meaningful goals, personal growth, responsibilities, and ambitions, leaving becomes natural rather than forced. You are not ending conversations to create mystery. You are simply continuing a life that already possesses purpose. This quiet independence makes your presence more valuable because people recognize that your attention is offered intentionally, not out of loneliness or dependence. Leaving people wanting more also means resisting the urge to reveal everything at once. Every conversation does not need to contain your entire life story, every opinion you hold, or every experience you have ever had. Relationships become richer when discovery unfolds naturally over time. Each meeting reveals another layer, another perspective, another experience. This gradual unfolding keeps curiosity alive because there is always something meaningful left to explore. Anticipation grows when people realize there is still more beneath the surface. There is also wisdom in ending interactions on a positive emotional note. Arguments that continue endlessly often leave both people emotionally exhausted. Discussions that become repetitive gradually lose their value. Even enjoyable moments eventually reach a point where extending them begins to reduce their impact. Learning to recognize that moment requires emotional awareness. It means paying attention not only to your own feelings, but also to the emotional rhythm of the interaction. When energy begins to decline, ending the conversation with warmth, appreciation, or genuine interest in meeting again leaves a far stronger impression than allowing it to drift into boredom. Modern communication has made this lesson even more relevant. Many people believe constant messaging creates stronger relationships. They send endless texts throughout the day, respond instantly to every notification, and feel anxious whenever a conversation temporarily pauses. Over time, however, constant communication often removes anticipation. Every thought is shared immediately. Every silence is filled. There is little opportunity for curiosity to develop because nothing is left unsaid. Allowing natural space between interactions gives emotions time to settle and appreciation time to grow. Absence alone does not create value, but meaningful space often allows value to be recognized. Leaving people wanting more is also about protecting your own energy. You do not need to give every person unlimited access to your time, emotions, and attention. Some conversations deserve depth, while others require healthy limits. By ending interactions with intention instead of obligation, you preserve your emotional well-being and ensure that each connection receives your best rather than whatever energy remains after endless availability. This balance allows allows your relationships to remain genuine instead of becoming draining. Perhaps the deepest reason this principle works is because anticipation is one of the strongest emotional forces in the human mind. Anticipation keeps memories alive. It encourages imagination to continue working long after the interaction has ended. People replay conversations, remember your expressions, reflect on your ideas, and begin looking forward to seeing you again. They do not feel forced to think about you. Their own curiosity invites them to do so naturally because the experience ended before its emotional value had the chance to fade. Always remember that the goal is never to make people chase you through manipulation or emotional games. The goal is to become someone whose presence consistently adds meaning, inspiration, calmness, and authenticity to the lives of others. When every interaction is genuine, purposeful, and leaves behind a sense of possibility, people will not remember you because you demanded their attention. They will remember you because your presence became an experience they genuinely looked forward to repeating. And that is the true psychology of making someone crave your presence, not by taking something away from them, but by giving them moments so meaningful that they naturally hope for the next one.